He's done it again. Shashi Tharoor, Congress MP, has publicly heaped praise on the Narendra Modi government. Tharoor, while speaking at the Raisina Dialogue, praised Modi diplomacy, as it's called now, for the government stand on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, an issue that his own party has criticized the government for previously. But clearly, that doesn't stop Tharoor. That didn't matter to him. He went ahead and expressed his admiration for how the Modi government has handled the entire crisis, even saying he has egg on his face for having questioned it previously. We'll talk about really what this means. What is Tharoor trying to indicate when he's praising the Modi government, not once but repeatedly? But first, listen in to what he said now.
So far, I must say that what we've seen from the press statements by both the Prime Minister and by President Trump are very encouraging, because it looks like some of the big concerns we all had have been addressed. For example, on the question of trade and tariffs, they've decided to sit down together and do a serious negotiation that will conclude by the fall, which is the autumn, September, October of this year. I think that's a very good outcome, because otherwise the fear was there might be some hasty decisions made in Washington which would have affected our exports. This way there is time to discuss and negotiate. I welcome that. That Espen will understand, because he and I talked about all this in my
pull out for you and play the reaction from Shashi Tharoor that sparked the entire talk now about whether he's considering a party switch. Let's put out for you what Tharoor exactly said at the Raisina Dialogue, where in fact he spoke about the Modi government stand on the Russia-Ukraine war. Let's play that out for you.
There was one person in the parliamentary debate who actually criticized the Indian position at the time, back in February 22, on the well-worn grounds that Espen will understand, because he and I talked about all this in my UN days, that there was a violation of the UN Charter, that there had been a violation of the principle of the inviolability of borders, of the sovereignty of a member state, namely Ukraine, and we had always stood for the inadmissibility of the use of force to settle international disputes, and all of those principles, I said, had been violated by one party, and we should have condemned it. Well, a couple of years later, 3 years later, it does look like I'm the one with egg on my face, because clearly the policy has meant that India has actually a prime minister who can hug both the president of Ukraine and the president of Moscow 2 weeks apart and be accepted in both places. And therefore, India is in a position where it can make a difference to a lasting peace, if it was so required, in ways that very few countries would be able to.
So you heard what Mr. Tharoor said at Raisina Dialogue, and when he was asked about it later, again, he confirmed what his opinion was on really the conflict or on the war, hailing the Modi government, which we played for you first. This isn't the first time, however, that the Congress MP has endorsed a stand taken by the Modi government. He's referred previously to Prime Minister Modi as a tough negotiator. There was outrage then. And so Mr. Tharoor, after making that comment, had said he was misquoted. But listen for yourself exactly what Tharoor had said on Prime Minister Modi previously, and whether that is categorized as praise or not.
So far, I must say that what we've seen from the press statements by both the Prime Minister and by President Trump are very encouraging, because it looks like some of the big concerns we all had have been addressed. For example, on the question of trade and tariffs, they've decided to sit down together and do a serious negotiation that will conclude by the fall, which is the autumn, September, October of this year. I think that's a very good outcome, because otherwise the fear was there might be some hasty decisions made in Washington which would have affected our exports. This way there is time to discuss and negotiate. I welcome that. Who actually criticized...
Come out. The reason there's so much speculation is the timing. It was just weeks ago that we reported here on India Today that Tharoor was snubbed by the Congress High Command when he sought more power in the Kerala Congress. He had a one-on-one meeting with Rahul Gandhi, and here's what happened in that meeting. This was just a matter of a few weeks ago. Sources say that in that meeting with Rahul Gandhi, Tharoor had expressed his clear dissatisfaction because he believed he'd been sidelined and sought clarity on his position within the party. But Rahul Gandhi was unwilling to make any commitments. Rahul Gandhi refused to really tell Tharoor what his place is or for that matter give him any sort of position. Tharoor reportedly even voiced his frustration over being removed from the All India Professional Congress, which is a body that he founded. So he mentioned that as well. He mentioned the fact that he has limited opportunities to speak in Parliament. Let's move on and talk about really what Tharoor also has mentioned. He reportedly also questioned whether the party wanted him to shift focus to Kerala politics. But again, there was no clarity that he really received. Tharoor mentioned about, in fact, the All India Professional Congress, about limited opportunities to speak in Parliament. He then also questioned whether there's a bigger role for him in Kerala politics. But again, there too didn't receive any response. So these were the issues that Tharoor had essentially raised while meeting with Rahul Gandhi. So this is the other point that I already mentioned. Rahul Gandhi now in response reiterated that the Congress does not announce chief ministerial candidates before elections, leaving Tharoor without any clarity on his future role. And this is particularly in reference to Kerala, because next year is the elections in Kerala. Tharoor, as we've told you there, wanted a bigger role. Let's move on and tell you about how Rahul Gandhi gave no clear response. He'd also hinted at taking up responsibilities in the Congress youth wing. That's again something that Tharoor had mentioned. But Rahul Gandhi reportedly dismissed that idea too. So Tharoor mentioning one more issue of the youth wing, and then Rahul Gandhi dismissed that as well. So that's another issue that Tharoor brought up. Again, there was no sort of confirmation or affirmative response that came in from Rahul Gandhi. So this is what happened just a few weeks ago. He raised a slew of issues. None of it was addressed by the Congress High Command. And so the message was clear for Tharoor, essentially from this meeting, that the High Command didn't really look to pander to any of his needs, or for that matter to give him any crucial role in the Congress. So how has Congress reacted to this latest statement by Tharoor? Listen in.
Shashi Tharoor says, I am still wiping the egg off my face.
As I said, Mr. Shashi Tharoor went to the tough school of diplomacy, whereas I only studied law, so he's much more experienced than me to talk about diplomacy, so I have really no comments on his views.
Shashi Tharoor, who is party's MP and former Minister of State in External Affairs Ministry, has appreciated Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and he has said at the Raisina Dialogue that when Russia and Ukraine went on war, at that point of time he criticized Prime Minister Modi, but now he realizes that Modi's diplomacy was right. It has reaped good results for India.
I haven't heard him saying this thing, but as far as Mr. Shashi Tharoor is concerned, what is behind his mind and why did he ask this or said this should be asked from him only. I may not be able to comment what I have not heard, what I have not seen.
Okay, let's bring in Rahul Gautam, who tracks the Congress for us. Rahul, good evening. How really is the Congress seeing this latest statement from Shashi Tharoor? We just put out details of what happened a few weeks ago when Mr. Tharoor had met with Rahul Gandhi, and when clearly the message from the High Command seemed to be that, look, we're not going to accommodate you in any key position. So keeping that in mind, how is the Congress viewing what's happening today?
Good evening, Akshita. Yes, you rightly pointed out that this is not the first time when Mr. Shashi Tharoor has heaped praises over Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Earlier, he also did the same thing, and at that point of time, he was given an audience with Rahul Gandhi. Mr. Nandagopal, who is the GSO, in fact, he phoned him, and as per our sources, he reprimanded him for making such statements. In fact, there were official statements that came in from Kerala leaders saying that one should stick to party's line and one should not stray away from party's stance. Now, this happened, barely a few weeks back, and now again, Mr. Tharoor has, in a way, endorsed the stand that was taken by Indian government. See, we have to understand that as far as AICC is concerned, there hasn't been any official word on this same issue. But the Kerala leader, we've been speaking with them, they are certainly not impressed with this statement coming just on the, just in a few months ahead of elections that are going to happen in Kerala. And they are saying that this actually seriously compromises the position of Congress party on various issues. So as far as Kerala Congress is concerned, they are absolutely not impressed. And you can expect that this issue will now be taken up by Kerala leaders to the very doorsteps of Rahul Gandhi, Mallikarjun Kharge, and they would seek a clarity as to what is the role of Shashi Tharoor going to be, because otherwise, if he is not reined in, clearly, many believe that it's going to be detrimental for parties' interests. But one last thing.
There will be questions. Sure, Rahul, go ahead.
BJP seems to be having a last laugh, Akshita.
We'll talk about that. But clearly, it's almost as if Tharoor is being pushed away by the High Command when they refuse to accommodate any of his requests. He sought repeated one-on-one meetings to seek more leadership roles. None of that really being addressed. So there will be questions about whether Tharoor has no choice but to really leave the Congress now. Is that the messaging that's really going across from the High Command to him? Thanks very much, Rahul, for joining us with those details. If Tharoor chooses to really take any sort of step with regards to, a political switch, he'll be joining a long list of Congress leaders who've jumped ship, who've left and dumped the party. Let's run you through that particular list and some of the biggest prominent faces of the Congress who left the party. Jyotiraditya Scindia being one, who left the Congress, joined the BJP. And he had, in fact, said that it's because the Kamal Nath government failed to fulfill promises. There was a lot of buzz, though, that Scindia also felt that he wasn't given enough responsibility in the party. Himanta Biswa Sarma, someone who was core to really the Congress High Command, was part of really the closest core of the party, left the party, joined the BJP. And he didn't hold back. When he quit, he put out details of why he did it, claiming that he was insulted by the Congress High Command, that Rahul Gandhi denied meeting him, said he has no time for him but had time for his dog. Amrinder Singh, also again a Congress veteran, quit the Congress and joined the BJP because he again, much like Himanta Biswa Sarma, claimed he was humiliated, that he was insulted by the High Command. And many of these leaders say exactly this, that when we reach out to the High Command, there's no response that's given. We're not given any power, any role. And that's why veteran leaders leave. Jitin Prasad joined the BJP, again left the Congress. Now he stands, in fact, with as an MOS. The reason he cited for leaving the Congress was he said that there was discontent with people, with the Congress, and so he decided to jump ship. RPN Singh, another senior leader of the Congress, has joined the BJP, and he, in fact, said that the reason, or at least it was believed that it was because several of his key aides were denied tickets in the UP elections. And the list, of course, is long. Kapil Sibal, an independent Rajya Sabha MP now, says he was left out of key Congress meetings, wasn't part of some of the most crucial decision-making huddles, and so decided to call it quits with the Congress. Ghulam Nabi Azad, another prominent face of the Congress, quit and established his own party. Again, he said he was completely sidelined by Rahul Gandhi, claimed he was insulted. Milind Deora, another prominent name, joined the Shiv Sena, a young, articulate face of the Congress, but chose to leave the party because he said in a statement that he wanted to support the path of development, essentially decided enough is enough with the Congress. Ashok Chavan joined the BJP, and while he didn't really give any details, he just said it was for personal reasons. The Congress maintained that the reason he's done it is because he wanted to clean shit in several cases. The list is long. Baba Siddique joined NCP Ajit Pawar faction. He claimed it was no longer needed by the Congress, and that's why he took that particular step. In each of these cases, you will see that most of these leaders, many of them were senior leaders who were part of really the decision-making bodies, and yet say they were humiliated, they were insulted, they had no power to take any decisions, almost as if they were pushed into taking the decision by the High Command. And that's why you tend to question whether similarly Shashi Tharoor today is being pushed out by the Congress by not giving him any responsibilities, by ignoring all of his requests for more power in the Kerala Congress, especially with elections coming up in Kerala. Can the Congress really afford to be doing this? Well, the BJP is making the most of Tharoor's comments. We don't know if at this point there are any talks or dialogue between the BJP and Tharoor, but they're going to town with the Congress MP's comments, from mocking the Gandhis to even extending an invite to Tharoor, saying our doors are always open.
देखिए, शशि थरूर जी डिप्लोमेसी समझते हैं। यूएन में काफी लंबे अरसे तक उन्होंने काम किया है और आज उन्होंने भारतवर्ष के विषय में प्रधानमंत्री के निर्णय को सराहा है। मुझे लगता है कांग्रेस पार्टी के तमाम नेताओं को इससे शिक्षा लेनी चाहिए। हर बात पे भारतवर्ष के विरोध में बोलना, प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के खिलाफ बोलना, राहुल जी हो, चाहे मल्लिकार्जुन जी हो और चाहे इंडी गठबंधन के नेता हों, इन सबको आज सामने आकर शशि थरूर जी के इस स्टैंड की सराहना करनी चाहिए।
पूर्व में जो उन्होंने यूक्रेन के युद्ध के संबंध में जो बातें कही थी, वो उनको लगा कि वो ठीक नहीं था। भारत सरकार की नीति ठीक थी, उचित थी, देर आए दुरुस्त आए, अच्छी बात है। आज विदेश नीति में नरेंद्र मोदी की सरकार और उनके द्वारा स्वयं के लिए गए जो भी निर्णय होते हैं वो भारत के हित में होते हैं। जैसे शशि थरूर ने स्वीकारा है वैसे ही कांग्रेस पार्टी के बाकी नेता स्वीकारेंगे तो अच्छी बात है।
अगर शशि थरूर भविष्य में ऐसी इच्छा जताते हैं कि वो भारतीय जनता पार्टी का दामन थामना चाहेंगे तो क्या भारतीय जनता पार्टी उन्हें स्वागत करेगी?
देखिए, मैं तो बहुत ही छोटे लेवल पे हूँ, मैं जम्मू कश्मीर की राजनीति में सक्रिय हूँ। ये राष्ट्रीय नेतृत्व का फैसला होगा, लेकिन फिर भी भारतीय जनता पार्टी के दरवाजे हर एक के लिए खुले हैं। इसमें ऐसा नहीं कि कोई एक क्लास आएगी, कोई इस प्रकार का व्यक्ति आएगा, सबके लिए दरवाजे खुले हैं और इस प्रकार की जब बात होगी तो वो राष्ट्रीय नेतृत्व फैसला करेगा।
There's no doubt that this is going to keep the political speculation growing over what's really Shashi Tharoor's plan of action. Is he going to be leaving the Congress, or are these just candid comments that he's making? In the run-up to the Kerala elections, it's extremely crucial to see what really Shashi Tharoor chooses to do. Okay, moving on, let's get you details of a story that caught our eye, particularly for all those of you who enjoy eating momos outside, particularly at food stalls. A raid has actually left the nation in shock. This is at a Momo factory in Mohali, where, imagine this, a severed dog head was found in the Momo factory, and it's led to questions about what kind of meat is actually used in these momos. Following complaints from locals, this was a few days ago, a municipal team had raided a momos and spring roll factory that was operating out of a residential house in Mohali. In all likelihood, it's from here that you see momos, spring rolls all being sent to some of the local vendors that you see on the streets of your neighborhood. The authorities not only found foul-smelling meat, which is, by the way, being tested because they don't know what kind of meat it is, but unhygienic conditions of the kitchen, which is evident in the footage. And imagine this, they discovered a dog's head in the fridge, which we've blurred out because the images obviously are extremely sensitive in nature. Videos from the raid also show workers using dirty water, rotten vegetables to prepare all of the food. The officials now have cracked down. But the fact that they found the severed head of a dog appears to be a pug, which is found inside a fridge. So God alone knows really if this was a pet dog that they stole, killed and used its meat. We don't have any answers, unfortunately, because the investigation is underway and the body that's been found of that dog has been sent to a veterinary department for examination to determine also if the meat that was found in the factory premises and its products was actually dog meat. And if it is, imagine how shocking that actually is, because we don't know then in these local vendors, when we consume momos, what meat is being used.
The Mohali Health Department has made a major expose wherein a Chinese food was prepared in very unhygienic conditions in this very house. We are in Mator village of Mohali, house number 280. You can see the lock hanging out there because the raid was conducted here by the Health Department. It was shown that how several people in very unhygienic conditions were preparing momos and spring rolls and Manchurians and noodles. Apart from that, it is also learned that a dog head or a tomcat head, which is a suspect thing, was also recovered from here only, although the health team says that on questioning they told that it was for the labor's consumption. But since the people are on the run, the health department has approached the police to register FIR and catch them, and also the premises has been locked so that nothing more this kind of a thing which plays with the health of the people continues. From Village Mator in Mohali, with camera person Aman, this is Asim Basi, India Today.
हमको जैसे पता चला कि एक और जगह पे भी ऐसा है तो हमने वहां जाके पकड़ा, उधर दरवाजा खुलवाया तो देखा कि काफी सारे लोग अंदर हैं, पूरी गंदगी है, बहुत ना उनके पास कोई सैनिटेशन का सर्टिफिकेट है, ना कोई कारपोरेशन से कोई परवानगी है, ना हमने तो उनको देने ही कहा था, क्योंकि जब तक कारपोरेशन हमको सर्टिफिकेट सैनिटेशन का नहीं देती हम लाइसेंस इशू नहीं करते, फूड सेफ्टी का लाइसेंस इशू नहीं किया जाता जो इस कंडीशंस में है।
डॉक्टर साहब, एक और चीज सामने आई है कि एक डॉग हेड मिला है, वो डॉग हेड है क्या है और वो क्या लोगों के लिए था कि किस तरह ये यूज करते थे?
हाँ, एक तो चीज क्लियर कर दूं कि जो वीडियो वायरल हुई है वो डॉग हेड उधर नहीं था, ये तो जो हमने दूसरा प्रेमिसेस चेक किया उधर एक मीट का पीस था बड़ा साइज का और वो अपने लिए खुद के लिए बना रहे थे। वो डॉग हेड है या कोई बिल्ला है या कोई समथिंग एल्स है, वो चीजें हमने पूरी अब लॉक कर दिया है. We will send it to the lab. We have already asked municipal corporation because slaughtering is the subject of municipal corporation, and we want कि municipal उसी जगह पे municipal corporation को भी बुला लिया था. We spoke to their higher officers. उनके local area के officers आ गए थे. जो गंदी चीजें थी उन्होंने discard करवा दी है और वो सारी चीजें उनके पास अभी lock in की है, and we have written it to the police also.
You really marvel at how far science has brought us when you see those images. If you missed the splashdown that took place this morning at 3:27 a.m. We've got you covered here on India Today. Some of the most beautiful images that will remain with mankind, with humankind, for many weeks and months to come, and I suspect we'll keep talking about it, is when the splashdown occurred, and we got the first glimpse of our astronauts back home, of Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore finally returning back to planet Earth after a 17-hour journey and, of course, a 9-month-long wait. Now, let's begin by getting you a quick highlight, in fact, of all that you missed out, from the splashdown to the moment when the astronauts emerged.
This view coming from the WB-57 high-altitude plane, and there you see it on your screen.
Continues to make its way back to planet Earth.
Continue to ensure that the Dragon spacecraft slows down even further. Big time this afternoon, and there we go.
We have visual on 4 healthy mains.
View there of the reefing on those parachutes, and as those main parachutes begin to inflate fully, 4 beautiful points as resting places for their arms. They were just in space moments ago, so their arms were able to float freely.
400 meters.
And splashdown. Crew 9 back on Earth.
And SpaceX Freedom, splashdown. Good main release.
Copy, splashdown. We see main chutes cut. Nick, Alex, Butch, Sunny, on behalf of SpaceX, welcome home.
We can see those fast
Freedom.
boats.
SpaceX is go for recovery personnel.
The astronauts will remain seated and in their suits at this point, but the onboard air conditioning keeps things temperature controlled inside the spacecraft, so the crew remains comfortable.
The capsule will be placed inside of what you can see there is basically a basket. We call it the nest, Dragon nest.
So once securely on...
Welcome aboard the recovery vessel. Recovery personnel are completing final checks.
And there you have it. The side hatch is open for the first time since September.
Yeah.
And there we do see Crew 9, some happy waves, smiles all around back on Earth.
Oh, looks like we're getting our next crew member here. That is none other than Sunny Williams. Big smile, big waves. She, like her other crew members, now will be assisted onto the mobility aid.
There we have it, some waves, some thumbs up, and some smiles. We're getting some views of him now as he egresses or exits the spacecraft.
Once again, some elation and cheers there from Butch Wilmore. We can see folks on board clapping as our first crew member.
And that is NASA astronaut Nick Hague, commander of Crew 9, now out of Crew Dragon Freedom. Some smiles, thumbs up, and a wave. Can't get any better than that. Spent 171 days in space alongside.
So those were the epic moments that we witnessed early this morning. Let's get you some of the most instrumental images, really, if you missed out, from the splashdown to beyond.
Harnessing being placed around the capsule.
Right after the splashdown in the Gulf Coast of Florida in America, they were welcomed by dolphins. The capsule is surrounded by a pod of dolphins who were seen circling around the capsule, making for a beautiful sight.
Want to come and play with Dragon. Now, they were.
Now at about 2:15 a.m. Indian Standard Time, right before the splashdown, NASA released images from inside the Dragon capsule, and the 4 crew members, including Sunita Williams, were seen sitting in a horizontal position, working on the screens overhead as well.
A couple miles away from the splashdown site. Looks like we're getting our next
Sunita Williams, when she first emerged from that capsule, was seen waving and smiling at the cameras. She was seen leaving on a mobility aid, considering, of course, that they have something called baby feet, which makes it difficult for the astronauts to walk after not having experienced gravity for so long.
Our next crew member here, that is none other than Sunita Williams. Big smile, big waves.
And the latest images show Sunita Williams along with all the other astronauts making it back home to Houston, where they visited the NASA Space Center. Sunita Williams was seen with an IV drip channel on her wrist. She and 3 other astronauts will now be going through a lengthy rehabilitation process because, of course, she and Butch Wilmore have spent 9 months in space. But there's Sunita, surrounded by people who were clearly helping her as she was walking along. Courtesy SpaceX, NASA was able to heave a sigh of relief that the astronauts are back home safe. Let's get you statements that NASA put out soon after the successful return of the astronauts, stating that the crew was trained for every challenge before the mission began, whether it was potential mishaps or spacewalks, or for that matter, having to stay much longer than anticipated.
Greatly appreciate your interest in the Commercial Crew Program and also human spaceflight. Of course, as you know, it's been just a huge week for commercial crew. You know, the missions, I think, sometimes seem easier than they are. If I just step back and think about all the challenges we had to launch Crew 9, moving to a different launch pad, adjusting the seats and the crew training, and then, you know, over the weekend, once we docked Crew 10 safely, looking at the weather patterns, finding this great opportunity that we landed at today, adjusting the timeline. You know, it's never easy. Spaceflight's always dynamic. Sometimes it seems like things move from step to step, but there's usually different paths along the way.
I want to tell you, I want to thank the Crew 9 team and the ground teams for their dedication to excellence, their resilience, their flexibility during this expedition, everything they did to have a successful expedition, as you have all witnessed. SpaceX has been an incredible partner for us, and it shows the benefits of the commercial public-private partnership that we have. So they just been a huge, great partner throughout all this. Crew 9, in addition to the spacewalks that many of you witnessed, they performed just about 150 experiments on board the International Space Station with over 900 hours of research. And the work we do on the International Space Station benefits the nation, benefits people on Earth, and are the building blocks for going back to the moon and to Mars.
Nick and Alexander both spent 171 days in space on this trip. Seeing the arrival and departure of 4 different visiting vehicles to the ISS. Butch and Sunny spent 286 days in space, and they got to see 8 different visiting vehicles coming and going from the ISS. We stay really busy as we talk about all these vehicles coming and going from the station. Nick and Butch each conducted 1 spacewalk, and Sunny conducted 2. That actually gave Sunny the record for most time on spacewalks by a woman, and puts her 4th overall in terms of time outside doing spacewalks. You know, all of our crew members go through evaluations. They fill out surveys. They do medical evals. So all of these things happen on every crew member. So we do get some unique data from Butch and Sunny based on their stay, but It's something that we do with every crew member that flies. There's always changes that happen on board. There's always adjustments that we have to make that all of the crew members adapt to. As you've watched with our flight schedule over the years, it's very rare that we actually get a flight to fly exactly where we planned it 2 years out when they were thinking it was going to be. So it's okay that we have these changes and they adapt really well. But everybody gets kind of looked at in terms of those effects and understanding just the effects of spaceflight on them. So.
And here's a conversation that I had earlier with the former Director General of the European Space Agency on this mission, what it means for the world. Dr. Warner, I'd like to know from you, it looks all plain, simple, beautifully executed. How complicated is a mission like this?
Okay, it's always complicated to go beyond Earth, to go in space, to go to the International Space Station or any other location, and to come back is also very difficult because you have to enter the atmosphere, and there you need, because of the big heat, you need the heat shield. So that's step number one. So the heat shield must work. Then the second one is you are decelerated. You need to have parachutes to be slower and slower, and you saw that they have 4 parachutes at the same time with the Dragon capsule. So this is redundancy. So if one parachute fails, nothing happens so far. And then finally you have the splashdown into the ocean. All of these steps are not as simple as they look in the TV. They are complicated, but I'm very happy that all 4 of them are back.
Dr. Warner, let's just talk about these images that came in after the splashdown. 30 minutes later, you had all of the astronauts being evacuated from the capsule, if we will. And none of them, of course, were on their feet. They were all taken out and then helped with a mobility aid. And it's also led to questions about how long really it takes for these astronauts to kind of adapt to normal life on Earth. Can you just explain that process for us?
It depends very, very much what they did in space. So we had the experience that even astronauts staying on board the ISS for half a year could walk afterwards directly if they are trained very well on the station. But by the way, think about this, what you just said. If you go to Mars, it will take you longer than to go to ISS and back, even for half a year. It takes at least half a year to go to Mars, and then there is nobody who helps you out of a capsule. So this is one of the reasons I always say, don't think about Mars, think about the moon, yes, but to go to Mars and then to leave the capsule or whatever it is, you cannot stand directly. So therefore, I'm really skeptical to go to Mars. But on Earth, it works. And we had also the experience with other astronauts leaving the capsule, and they could walk directly. It depends, as I said, it depends very much on their training on the station. If they are doing the training day by day by day by day, they can walk.
And what do you think, Dr. Warner, is the lesson, perhaps, the learning for every space agency right now from this one mission, witnessing this particular mission by SpaceX?
Yeah, but you see, this particular mission of SpaceX is seen always as, and you said it also, that the astronauts were stranded. I don't believe that they were stranded. They were not stranded. They were not shipwrecked. They just stayed longer. It was not planned like that, but they did not wait there and wait for help. That was not the situation. The 2 astronauts, Sunita Williams and Barry Wilmore, they stayed on the ISS. They made experiments. And it is good that there is another possibility, that there was another possibility to go to the station with the Dragon capsule. They came with the Boeing capsule. So redundancy is a very important thing in space. And therefore, to have multiple possibilities to transport astronauts is one of my key understanding of what is necessary.
All right. Dr. Warner, I appreciate you joining us here on India Today with your expert comments really on what we witnessed this morning for us here on India Today. And thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
The challenges continue for Sunita Williams. What do I mean? Well, it's about rehabilitation now, how fast she can actually adjust to Earth's surroundings, to Earth's conditions. So for that, there are primary medical checks that will be done to assess her condition, how much help does she need. She's already been flown down to NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. That's routine for astronauts, really, once they come back from space, to be brought immediately to the Johnson Space Center. Because here, a comprehensive health assessment will take place, so will monitoring. She's not going to go home just yet. She has now to be part of a 45-day rehab program to ensure that she can readjust to gravity. It's obviously something that could take even longer, considering how long she's been in space. She will also be engaging in debriefing sessions to discuss experience, to discuss challenges as well. All of that will happen in the next few months. So for her to get back to normal life is going to take a lot more time. And one of the biggest concerns for Sunita Williams and for Butch Wilmore is the fact that space travel does affect an astronaut's health. And these two NASA astronauts have spent 9 months in space. So they will face physical, psychological challenges as they now readjust to Earth's gravity. Baby feet, dizziness, vertigo, difficulty in walking, which we saw also when they were pulled out of that capsule. These are just a few issues that they will face. Our next report tells you more.
Splashdown, Crew 9 back on Earth.
A 10-day space odyssey that ended up lasting almost 10 months. Williams and Wilmore will face difficulties to adapt to Earth's gravity. The two may experience baby feet after extended space travel, which means they will lose the thick part of their skin as weightlessness causes foot calluses to diminish. They may experience dizziness, vertigo, and difficulty walking for the first few days. Even though astronauts exercise in space, muscles, especially in the legs and back, weaken due to reduced use. Prolonged weightlessness leads to bone density loss, increasing the risk of fractures. In space, fluids shift upwards and the heart does not have to work as hard to pump blood. They will require a period of cardiovascular recovery. They might experience spatial disorientation as the brain readjusts to the constant downward pull of gravity.
How much of a role does age play? I'm looking at a 59-year-old Sunita Williams, a 62-year-old Butch Wilmore. Does age come as a factor? They look extremely fit. But also, do you think there are then special space medicines that add on that will track them now that they have returned? Go ahead.
Absolutely. Very important question. So I'll give you a fun fact. Do you know your chronological age, as in your regular number, actually slows down in space? For every 6 months you spend in International Space Station, you age at a rate of 0.05 seconds less. But what about the biological age? You actually age faster when you talk about biological age, because it's a very harsh environment in the space. Yes. Although your oxygen is 21% in the space station, you have atmospheric pressure, which is equally good, but still the content of recycled air is a big problem. Circadian rhythm, as you know, right? Beauty sleep. You need 6 to 8 hours of sleep to heal your body, including healing your own DNA.
To counter these effects, NASA and other space agencies have extensive rehabilitation programs involving physical therapy, medical monitoring, and gradual reconditioning. After coming back from space, Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore will take weeks to acclimatize. Bureau Report, India Today.
That's all we have time for in this edition of Super 6. Thanks for tuning in.